Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel Trust in Rock, where you're joining me for another edition of my interview show, RockDrop. And I've got a very special guest joining me for this edition. It is Geoff Tate. And I last worked with Geoff about 30 years ago during the heyday of Queensryche and MTV's Headbangers Ball. So I've got an awful lot of catching up to do with him and also to find out what he's up to in 2025. So let's cross over to the interview right now. Well, Geoff, it's such a genuine pleasure to catch up with you again after all these years. First of all, how are you? Where are you? And what you've been up to?
Oh, I'm doing great. Today I'm in Italy, enjoying the sunshine and the cuisine. I have a week off before we start our Spanish tour. So yeah, I'm basically nonstop on the road these days and touring, touring, touring. Finishing the Spanish dates are the last dates of my big rock show tour that's been going on for 2 years now. And we're about to start a new tour, which is the Operation Mindcrime Final Chapter Tour, and that starts in America at the end of March. So looking forward to that from one tour to the next.
Indeed, that seems to have been your life. But, I want to kind of take a walk down memory lane with you, first of all, and kind of rewind to our kind of heyday when we last worked together, which was maybe 30 years ago. I call it the golden era of MTV, and Queensryche were just on the rise, going from strength to strength to strength. And I just wondered, what are your enduring memories from that period of your musical career?
Oh gosh. Well, my touring memories are uh, I have a plethora of them. It's just nonstop for me. I think last year I spent 11 days at home, and I love being on the road. I love touring. I love traveling, and I have friends everywhere I go, it seems. I toured for 40 some odd years, and every year it gets better, bigger, more people, different venues. I've been in 66 countries. That's amazing. And this next year, I'll add 10 more new countries to it. And Queensryche never did that. We pretty much concentrated in America and pretty much concentrated in the major cities in Europe. And hardly ever did we do a full on tour of our own. We tended to do festival dates where you just make a appearance for an hour. I didn't really start touring Europe seriously until I was touring on my own. So it's better now, actually, from that respect.
Oh, some people may be aware that Operation Mindcrime is my favorite album of all time. And in this era of conspiracy theories and misinformation, it seems more relevant than ever. And I was wondering, did you have a crystal ball when you wrote it?
Yeah, I wish I had a crystal ball. No, I just chose subject matter that was kind of timeless. The struggle in humanity's history has always been um, people in power trying to keep people without the power down and without power. So it's kind of classic themes, and I just wrote them into sort of a modern text of drug abuse, homelessness, and that seemed to resonate with people. And it's a strong story. It's a strong album, and it's one that I really enjoy playing live. And I get so many requests for it. I think I could probably perform that album for the rest of my life and never get tired of it.
No, it's an incredible album. And I recall that the production was also quite a challenge with all the sound effects, the actors, and the kind of ambience. What was it like for you when you heard the songs and all the narrative put together for the first time?
Well, you mean as a complete
Yeah,
album?
yeah,
Oh, yeah, that was really quite quite enlightening, really. Um, be- Mainly because you kind of put it together in your head at first on how you think it's going to be, and then you work towards that for months. In our case, I think we spent 6 months working on that record. Several different studios around the world, different production teams working on it with us. And then, you put it together piece by piece, and then you hear it all together, which at that time, technology wasn't at the point where it is now. You kind of had to wait for everything. And so I remember the day that we did piece it all together. It was called sequencing then, and you sequence the album and put it in chronological order. And we had to do it a couple different times because we wanted the key changes to work nicely together, and we wanted the segue parts to make sense, and there had to be certain spaces between the tracks. So yeah, it took a couple days actually to sequence it all together. But yeah, once I heard it, I remember I was sitting in Vieselord Studios actually outside of Amsterdam, and that's where we mixed it. And Peter Collins and James Barton and Chris DeGarmo and I were there, and we were putting the last finishing touches on it. And honestly, when we played it all down, all of us just sat there and listened and listened and listened and listened and stared with our eyes closed, I guess looking inward. And once it was over, we just all looked at each other, and we all started talking. Can we do anything different to it? Do we need to do anything different? Is it finished? And we all agreed at that moment that it was done. But you don't know, when you listen to it all down, you don't know if there's one more thing you need to do. But collectively, we all felt that we had come to the end, and we had made the album and it was finished. And it was a great, I wouldn't say relief, but it is kind of a relief because you finally get this thing out of you. You finally get it out of your head, and there it is. And that's a great feeling. Great feeling.
Well, what an incredible moment. And I remember when I very first played it, it literally put me into goosebumps all over. It was
Mm.
just so different, so incredible, so powerful. And yeah, it's awesome to hear your recollection from when you first heard it as a complete work. So thank you for that. You have created such an amazing catalogue of music from Rage for Order, Operation Mindcrime, Empire, and so on. And these albums are still talked about to this day. They're still ranked in metal charts. How did you maintain such high standards during that period? Did you keep challenging yourselves?
Oh yeah, definitely that. Definitely trying to create something new each time we made a record. It's funny, records for me, in my experience, tend to begin with conversations that you have with your writing team. For me, it was Chris DeGarmo. We talked a lot about what we wanted to do, and then we just kind of set about doing that. Once you start talking about it, you sort of make it into reality from that point. But until you talk about it, you don't really have an idea of what you're doing. So for us, it was a conversation, like, oh, I've always wanted to make something like this, or I had this idea about this, and oh, I had that same idea, and what we could do, and it starts the brainstorming
Mm.
process, and that's how we worked. And it was a good way of working, really.
Yeah, very free flowing, very creative, very kind of
Hmm.
organic. Sounds like that. Now, I know that you and the band had an acrimonious parting and that you can't really talk about it for legal reasons, but I just wanted to try a slightly different angle. And that is, what was it like for you on an emotional level when you were kind of out of the Queensryche fold? Because, you know, whenever I worked with you, you were such good friends. You were like brothers in arms, and you went through so much together. And I think from my own experience, if you're involved in a life-changing event with somebody, you feel such a strong bond to them because they are the only other people that understand what you've been through. And I was wondering, do you miss the loss of that fellowship and that brotherhood?
Well, it never was a brotherhood. It never was the way you describe. It was always um, it was always one or two of us, myself, Chris, brainstorming ideas, bringing them to the rest of the guys, enlisting their help in making a record. And I think that was just due to the fact that we made this demo tape when we were kids, which turned into an EP, which sold 1 million records, And so we were uh, smart enough to say, okay, well, we obviously have a good combination here of people, and we obviously people like what we're doing. So I guess we should continue doing that. So it was sort of a relationship built upon us having success early on, you know. I imagine if we had gotten together and not had success, we wouldn't have been a band for 30 years, And I'm very proud of the music we made and the tours we went on. And um, 30 years being in a band and making music is got to be some kind of amazing record, if you want to rate things. Um, and I feel very proud of that. Not many bands can achieve that. Most bands break up after 5 to 10 years, because it's a hard life. It's a very difficult life, and being together and doing things as a team, life takes you through many changes, and you don't always survive them all.
Mm.
And but we managed to stick it out for 30 years before everything turned south. So I feel good about that. And when I think about it, that's what I sort of focus on is the fact that 30 years is an amazing time to be together for that long.
It surely is, and you've created something that, you know, will outlive you. And it's just incredible what you achieved. And I really appreciate your frankness in describing how it was, because of course I only saw it from kind of the outside when we were backstage and so on. So I was wondering, are you still in touch with Chris DeGarmo? Because I believe he's a pilot now.
Yeah, no, I haven't talked with them probably in 10 years, I think. Yeah, it's been a while. Yeah, we kind of definitely parted ways sort of over time. Once he left the band, we still communicated quite a bit. And then it got over time less and less and less. And now we get like postcards, on birthdays, that kind of thing. Hope you're doing well, man.
Well, if you do speak to him or communicate with him, please send him my warmest regards.
I will.
And I've got a bit of a fan question for you, and I did, you know, do a shout out on my Facebook group about questions that the fans would like me to ask you, and I'm afraid it's
Mhm.
the inevitable question: will Queensryche ever reunite?
Well, I would say never. I don't think it's likely. Um, I believe Chris is taking on a whole different lifestyle, a whole different um, way of life these days. I'm very busy and very happy doing what I'm doing. And Michael and Eddie are still touring. I went and saw them the other night, actually, in somewhere. What was it? Somewhere in Sweden. I can't remember exactly where it was, but they seem very happy doing what they're doing. And so peace.
Oh. Wonderful that you can talk about it with such graciousness. Now we're going to move on from Queensryche now, and I just wanted to talk a little bit just about your voice because it's just so renowned. And I was just wondering how do you manage to maintain such a range? You must have to really kind of look after your voice all the time.
Yeah. Well, the way I look after it is I use it a lot. I try to play 6 shows a week. I take one day off, and that seems to work for me. I think it's like a muscle, the more you use it, the stronger it gets. And if you don't use it, the weaker it gets. I kind of think it's like that. At least for me, it is. And I found a way that I found a schedule that works for me and a way of operating that kind of works for my body, which the voice is your body, you can't just put new strings on it, and play away. You have to find what works, what uh, what works for your system, and be true to that and disciplined about it. I'm not, I don't live a, a religious life of, you know, I'm not sober. I'm not uh, that kind of person. I'm pretty much, I like a few drinks. I have a good time in life. I play my music and meet people, and that just works for me.
So take hold of the man. There is no mistake. And say, hey, I'm the precious life. It's so slipped away.
Now, you performed the entire Operation Mindcrime album on your tours. I had the privilege of seeing it back in the day. I think it was when you played the Royal Albert Hall. And
Mm.
I just wondered, how has the performance of it changed over the years? And I believe that you've shared the stage with your daughter Angel as well.
I have, yeah. In the past, I think the 35th anniversary of the album, she joined me for the tour and sang the part of Sister Mary.
Wow.
She was great. Absolutely spot on every night. It was amazing. Actually, I was really proud that she was, so good. Um, but this year, we're going to start the tour again for the final chapter of the Operation Mindcrime albums. We have some new songs that we're going to be releasing over the course of the year. And I'm going to be joined by a fantastic Irish singer named Clodagh McCarthy. And she has actually toured with me before. And this is kind of the first time, but she's ever toured in America with me as a lead singer. So she's going to be joining me on lead vocals and keyboards as well. So that's going to be a fun one because she's a powerhouse singer, and I'm really anxious to for people to hear her.
Well, we'll talk about that a little bit more just as we get to the end. But tell me about your other enterprises, Geoff, because you just seem incredibly busy because you've also got your backstage travel pass company where fans can come out on the road with you in a tour bus or go on a tour with you of a different country. And you've also got your wine Insania. And
Hmm.
I guess you must be really sort of full of gratitude that your what you've achieved with the band has actually given you a platform to actually do all the things that you love, which seems very much based around travel.
Very true, very true. If I hadn't been in a band and toured so much, I wouldn't know so much about certain places in the world, and I couldn't be much of a tour guide. So yeah, when people come on the road with us, we have these week-long trips. We take people. We have two of them in Italy. We have one in France, two in Ireland, two of them from in America. They are really fun, and we go to amazing places like Tuscany, for example, and we have a villa there. Everybody stays in the villa. We have an amazing Italian chef that cooks meals for everybody every night, and every night we have music, and we have different musicians that join us and play and sing and joke and jam. And some of the guests bring their instruments too, and we have jam night where they play. It's really fun. In the daytime, we have a tour bus that takes us out and sightseeing around the area, and we go to amazing places like Rome and Florence and the museums of Italy, for example, and the Tuscan vineyards. We have a giant pool where everybody has a cocktail hour. We have jam nights by the pool. John Moyer from Disturbed has joined us for weeks at a time. Eric Martin from Mr. Big has joined us, and it is just incredibly fun. We have a thing where we have let's write a song, and so everybody gets involved, and we write a song and we produce it and record it, and everybody on the trip gets involved, and they sing or they play tambourine or they do something on the song as well. And usually they're kind of like funny lyrics and describing the situation that we're in. And it's, I don't know, it's priceless. I'd highly suggest if you're interested in travel, go with people who know where they're going and can show you where to go. All you got to do is get to the airport and we got you from there. That's called Backstage Pass Travel.
Yeah, I want to come to the one in Scotland.
Yes, that's a great one. We go to the Highland Games and we get to throw big logs around, and it's a very different experience.
How's it going with the writing for the new songs for Operation Mindcrime 3? Because I'm assuming that it builds on the story of Dr. X and so on. I wondered, are you going to incorporate the issue of AI? Because that's very much a trending topic in the music industry at the moment.
Funny you should say that. Yes, it'll have all kinds of nods to modernity or to what's happening in the world right now. I've always been very interested in that technology and where it's taking us, and I'm also very intrigued by the power of it and how we are all part of the narrative. Really, we're all kind of contributing to where we're going, technologically speaking, in the world. And yes, the new album is coming along very nicely. We're going to release songs over the year rather than as an album. We're going to release each song like every couple months. And then at the end of that time period, we're going to put together a full album and release at that time. Kind of a different way of doing things, but hey, it's the 21st century and there's no rules,
Well, quite. Everything has changed so much since
It
back
really has.
kind of MTV days. Production techniques have moved on as well. Has that advancement kind of been helpful with the current production?
Recording technology is massively different than last time we spoke, actually. It's come so far. Pretty much the studio I have in my suitcase that I carry with me everywhere is as powerful as the studios we were using to record our early Queensryche records, And so we do everything on the road these days, pretty much. And then we go to a mixing studio and sit in one place and put it all together at that point. But it's a great way to work, actually, because you can be sitting in your hotel room and write an amazing part that you just came up with, and you don't have to wait to book a time at some studio in a city and then try to remember what it is you were thinking about. You can just do it immediately, and I love that. I love it, making immediate music.
Well, indeed, because I think, creativity can just come upon you at any moment. And
Yeah.
You know, I know when I'm writing things, I have to be in a kind of certain frame of mind to do it. And if, like you say, if you've got your kind of portable studio there and you just suddenly have an idea, you can immediately get it down. Whereas sometimes if you don't, you can forget it.
Yeah. And the best ideas are forgotten, it seems, you know. Yeah, you don't want to be in that boat.
No, definitely not. Well, let's come forward right now to 2025 and beyond. You've got a massive tour coming up, as you mentioned. And when I looked on your website, Geoff, the dates just seem to go on and on and on. I don't know how you have the stamina and energy to do it, but you are retiring Operation Mindcrime as a full performance. Um, you know, why have you decided to do that? And I can only imagine that it's going to be an incredibly emotional thing for both you and the fans, the last time that you play those songs.
Yeah, I think it probably will be. I really don't know what to expect in that regards, but I wanted to do it because one, I have the third album together, and I wanted to release that, and it seems that the best way to do it would be while we were doing um, the Operation Mindcrime live tour. You know, it seems to all fit together nicely, and it usually takes me about 3 years to get through the tour cycle, getting everywhere I want to go. And so I'll be 70 when we're done with the
Wow.
tour. And I thought, well, you know, perhaps I should just, while I'm strong, while I feel great, you know, I'll give it, uh, give it everything I got for the next 3 years, you know.
Well, you look absolutely incredible, and your energy levels, I don't know, they put me to shame, Geoff, I'll tell you. And you know, I've seen you play live on many occasions, and it's just an incredible, energetic show, and you put 100% into it, and I know you've continued to do so after all these years. I must actually confess something, Jess. Earlier, when I asked you about the Queensryche possible reunion, I really thought you would just say absolutely not. I'm quite surprised that you know, has there been a little shift? Have you had conversations? Was it a feeling of goodwill when you were at the gig recently?
No, not at all. No. Um, I went to the gig unannounced, and myself, my wife, and some of our band, and we all went up to the front of the stage to see the show, which I had never seen them like that before. So that was quite interesting for me. And Todd saw me, the singer. He saw me and gave me the high five, you know. But the other guys, I don't know, they wouldn't look at me. They wouldn't acknowledge, you know, and I'm waving, you know, raising my glass, you know, that kind of thing. Uh, I don't know what it is. I don't have hard feelings at all, you know. It was it- legally, it was a wonderfully amicable split, you know. I sold them the name and they owned the name Queensryche, and that's great, you know. I was done with it, you know. For me, it wasn't a good fit anymore. And so we went our separate ways and are doing our thing. And I don't have hard feelings against any of them, you know.
But you didn't go backstage?
No, wasn't invited.
Okay. Well, it's very interesting to hear this. And
But then again, I wasn't, I didn't make arrangements. I just showed up unannounced. So, you know, I
mm,
don't, it wasn't like I was expecting to be asked, if that makes sense.
mm. Well, I think it's very positive to move on from it in the way that you have, and that you don't feel any any bad feelings towards the other guys. And I hope that's reciprocated from the other side, because you know, you're an absolutely awesome band and you did so much together, and the fans absolutely continue to love you to this day. And it would be great if there was a little thawing or shift, and you know, start talking again. So I'll keep my fingers crossed for that. I
Yeah,
guess we're coming
and
to
there
the
you
end
go.
now. We're coming to the end now, Geoff. I really
Mhm.
do appreciate your time. And I tend to end my interviews on this question. And it's, you know, you mentioned that I'm your last interview of the day. I know you do, you know, scores of interviews throughout the tour. And I'm sure you get, you know, you tend to get asked the same questions time again. And I was wondering, is there a question that you wished an interviewer had asked you that nobody's asked you yet?
No, not really. Um, I, I rarely get talked, or I rarely get asked questions about the music, honestly. And I think that's kind of a common thing with most musicians. Um, People ask you questions about your touring schedule or your relationships with your band or that kind of thing, but rarely do they ever talk about the music, which I've gotten used to it now after all these years of doing interviews. But at first, it kind of threw me for a loop. I didn't understand what else is there to talk about. But then again, after time, I'm kind of glad that people don't ask me about the music because on the times I have been asked about it, um, I have a heck of a hard time explaining what I'm doing without feeling like I'm defending it, you know? Music is a very personal journey for the people that make it and for the people that enjoy it and listen to it. And I don't think that I don't think that it is something that maybe needs to be discussed. You know, it's people experience it differently, and we all experience music differently. Like we hear it differently. You know, I just spent the evening yesterday with some friends, and we were at their studio, and the way they had the song EQ'd that we were listening to, I, I couldn't listen to it the way they had it set up. I had to make adjustments to it that the vocal was like really buried, you know, but it sounded okay for them, you know.
Mm.
So that's an example where people hear music differently and they are affected by it differently too. They're affected by the words differently. Um, it's just a very personalized medium, you know.
Indeed. Well, Geoff, thank you so much for joining me here on Trust in Rock. It just is an honor and a privilege to meet up with you again across Zoom, unfortunately, not in person, after all these years. And, you know, I so enjoyed working with Queensryche, and thank you for your support of me while I was at MTV, but also supporting my channel Trust in Rock. So thank you so much. And who knows, maybe I'll come on your Scottish Highlands trip, or I'll come and see you out on tour.
Excellent. That'd be fun, Vanessa. Thanks for the interview. Appreciate it.
All the best. Take care. Wow, what an amazing interview with Geoff Tate, and it was just so lovely to catch up with him again after all this time. And I feel like I got a little bit of a scoop hearing that he'd been to a Queensryche gig recently and that there was no ill feeling on his part, and that everybody is just doing their own thing and really enjoying life. And that's just how it should be for the Queensryche guys after all these years. So I'd be really interested to hear your comments beneath the video. And I'm also going to put links to all Geoff's activities underneath the video. So tour dates, a link to his travel company, a link to his wine, so that you can explore everything that he's doing in 2025 and of course support him. And you can also support me by subscribing to my channel. It really does help with my content generation to have your support, and I have lots of plans to bring you more than metal interviews throughout 2025. So please subscribe, and I'll see you next time on Trust in Rock.